How's it going? Good. Everybody had coffee?
Yeah.
Right. So first I'd like to thank Ellie and the Content Israel team for inviting me over to speak to you today. I hope we'll have time for some questions because I like this to be interactive, but I also have a time frame, so we'll see how that goes. My name is Yanay. Some people call me John. I don't know why. I used to be CEO of Pan Online, which was one of the biggest digital agencies in Israel back in the day. Then Chief Marketing Officer for Galatea, which got acquired. Now Chief Marketing Officer for Appsee. And I also spent my time a little bit on a few early stage startups, helping them kind of figure out what's going on. So what the guys at Content Israel asked me to do today is to talk to you a little bit about how we built a content-based, content-driven acquisition machine. Solely using content. We have a bunch of other funnels, but I'm going to laser focus on this today. B2B and B2C relevancy there, and I'll kind of pinpoint the differences. I need to give you, I'm not trying to sell you our company. I don't think you're the crowd, but just so you get a context of where we're coming from, what we're trying to get. So Appsee is the world's largest qualitative app analytics platform. That's a bunch of fancy words. Let me break it down. What we basically do is we are like, if you are familiar with Hotjar or ClickTail, we do that for all apps. So what does that mean? Two main things. One thing that Appsee does is it records every single session that users have with the app. So the people behind the app can actually figure out if there's problematic sessions in the app that needs to be fixed, not just counting on the numbers, but actually seeing what happened in those sessions that were problematic. And the second thing that is a qualitative thing is what we call touch heat maps that basically aggregates and shows on each screen of the app where the users are tapping, swiping, engaging with the screens, a gesture analysis kind of thing. Where the designers, the UI and the UX designers can actually see how people interact with the interface and have the insights to iterate on the product. Okay, so that's what Appsee does. It's pretty big. Its SDK is on more than 1 billion devices worldwide. And basically, the context here is that it's a B2B company going for this target audience, which is basically everybody who is within the mobile app team. Okay, so in every mobile app team, there are three main positions or main functions of responsibilities. One is the developers, the people who actually write the code. Then there's the marketers, people doing acquisition and monetization. And the third one are the mobile product managers, the people in charge of the product itself. Okay, so most of the target audience that we're going for, or the main users for this platform, are the mobile product manager. So that's the context. We're analytics for mobile apps, pushing it and trying to get as many mobile product managers to try and buy our product so they can use it to improve their apps. Okay. So as I mentioned, Appsee has a bunch of different funnels. We're going to be focusing today on how we built the content funnel that was pretty successful for us. Actually, the company was based, most of the growth up until about a year ago was based solely on inbound marketing. So we had $0 spent on PPC and stuff like that. Something we only introduced in the last year. And this is how we built it. So when we look at a content funnel that's supposed to drive revenue, and I'm going to go all the way until the revenue part, not just the leads part or the impressions or the clicks. We look at three different main stages that needs to be differentiated in order to be executed well. So we're talking about content creation, we're talking about content promotion, and then it's not even enough because then we need to think about what are we going to be doing with the actual leads. So how are we going to engage with the leads in order to transform them into bottom line revenue dollars. Let's start with the first one. So before we talk about content creation, this is a concept that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, but it's something that guides me and for sure our team and most of the companies that I work with every day. So are you guys familiar with the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule? Great. So I'm also a visiting professor in IDC, and I can tell you the Pareto principle works really well there. The 80-20 means that 20% of my students are going to make 80% of the noise, 20% of them actually going to have 80% of the work done for the rest of the class, and so on and so forth. Why is that relevant for particularly content marketing? From a few different angles. One, if you run any ROI analysis on any content team on the planet, you will see for sure that around 20 or 10, it doesn't matter, percent of that content actually led, the successful one, actually led to 80% of that revenue. So the question that we start asking is, let's not do the 100%, what are actually the 20% of content that will get us the 80% of the revenue in retrospect? But we're trying to kind of predict it. I'll show you how we do it. Another thing that is very important to look at within the context of the 80-20 is the difference or the relationship between content creation and content promotion. There's the old saying, if a tree fell in the forest, nobody heard it fall, did it actually fall? So if a good, great piece of content was created and nobody actually consumed it, was it actually created? The answer is, of course, no. So we have a very strict rule about devoting 80% of our efforts into the content promotion part and only 20% versus the content creation. It's not such an easy thing to do because content people or marketing people in general, we're passionate and we want to create a bunch of content, and it seems like every day we have a new idea for a piece of content that's going to turn the company's trajectory around, and we want to get to it, but actually it's something that we really need to fight our urges in terms of doing and focus most of our time on the promotion. So let's start with the content creation part, the first part. So all of us are marketers, all of us are familiar with the concept of a funnel. Let me clarify it in 30 seconds in terms of what it meant for us, for Appsee specifically, for this context of the example. So we have a top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, where we want to get people in different stages to engage with us. And the key thing to take away here, the key insight here, is that different people or different personas have different preferences for engaging with us as a brand. What do I mean? Some of our target audience, because of who they are, will never go on our website and fill up a form. Contact us, or a pricing request, or a demo request, or a free trial, or get more information, whatever it is that the bottom of the funnel engagement is for your product. Some of people will never do that. Why? Because they'll never do it, because instinctively they feel like it's a defeat, because they don't like that, or let's call it lead introverts. They don't really like to engage with them. That realization brings us to a conclusion that is we have to create different stages on the funnel to cover as many people as possible and give them the opportunity to actually engage with us. So if we understand that many people will actually never engage with us as in the bottom of the funnel, will never actually ask to hear what we can do for them, we have to create a middle of the funnel and a top of the funnel type of content to attract them. What is top of the funnel? Top of the funnel is content. Simply put, top of the funnel is content that is relevant to our target audience without any relation to our product. So if we are targeting, in this example, product managers, it needs to be something that is very relevant for product managers as they are product managers without any relation to analytics, to mobile apps, or to our product. Why? Because that's how we create credibility with that segment of the population that will never consume something else for you. Okay? The middle of the funnel is very educational, is basically educating and giving value within the area that we operate as a company to our target audience, but not pitching the product too much. So just giving value and educating them to go forward and be more knowledgeable in our area. And the bottom of the funnel is actually talking to them and educating them about our product or our vision or our agenda. Let's see a few examples. So top of the funnel, as we mentioned, is getting the product managers that we want to go for, the mobile product managers that we want to go for, to engage with us, to download the piece of content so we can then take it forward. but we don't want to be too aggressive about it and talk about Appsee, right? So the question that we need to ask is very simple. What is the content offer your target audience cannot refuse? We don't create a lot of content at Appsee. We create very few pieces of content that are supposed to be an offer that our target audience cannot refuse. So if our target audience are product managers and we want to create a top of the funnel piece that they will not be able to refuse, what can we create that will attract as many of them as possible to download our content and give us their details? So we did a little bit of a research and we released the Mobile Product Manager's Salary Report. Headline number 2, find out if your colleagues are making more money than you or if you're underpaid. I don't know a lot of people that are working in any position that would not be interested in knowing if they're underpaid or would be curious to know how much their colleagues are making in a different company, in a different country. So this was one of the most successful content pieces for top of the funnel. The conversion rate on these on the landing page for those ebooks were above 50%, and the traffic was really, really easy to get. I'll get to it in a second.
Where did you get the data?
Good question. So we actually ran where did I get the data? So we actually ran a survey, and we pushed the survey, and that was most of the investment to actually create that content. We took that data, a bunch of pivot tables, nice infographics. You can go and download it on the website, and we presented something that was really valuable for people trying to kind of figure out where they stand. Middle of the funnel, we said, is about really educating our target audience about things that are relevant to our industry, but we're not going to push our product. So the middle of the funnel was a complete KPI handbook for mobile product managers. So that's every product manager is really interested, and that's basically what we do on a day-to-day, working with the KPIs of the app. So what we did is we ran a content, we built a content directory for them to kind of think which KPIs should we focus on, but only in the last part of the content did we actually focus on, okay, some of the KPIs you cannot measure with any other product other than our own product, Appsee, or our type of product. So we really gave a lot of value, and in the end we said, okay, if you like that 80%, and we created credibility with giving you that 80%, trust us that you need also those additional 20% that we can give you as a company. And the bottom of the funnel is something that we just hit the nail on the head. Appsee does touch heat maps. We created the complete guide for touch heat maps. Basically took ownership of that feature, even though some of our competitors have it, and gave it as something that you can use as a guideline, as a manual to use that feature. So here's an example of top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel content. I thought it's worth 1 minute to go over a content landing page with you in terms of what we saw from our experiment that gave us a higher conversion rate. I'd like to start with something that I get asked about all the time. Please do not use dedicated landing pages for your content or for anything else. Please you put the landing page within that website. Don't use something like Unbounce or lead pages or whatever it is. I know it's a lot easier, it's a lot more convenient, and you don't have to run after the graphic designer or the webmaster. But these days, many people, actually more than 50% of B2C traffic and more than 80% of B2B traffic can smell a landing page template from miles away, especially if it's on a different platform. And you know all that content and all those ideas about don't give up too many links for people to run away from your page. It's going to it's going to create friction. It has some merits to it, but it's all written by companies that want you to buy their landing page platforms, right? So please do put it in the actual website. Another advantage is that if your content is good, people can have a discovery, or we call it serendipity, and then go into the website and start looking at your actual product when you brought them for a piece of content, right? I'm not used to these Mr. Madonna, so sometimes I apologize. So that's number one. Number two is only asking for a company email. What we found is we had 34% increase in conversion rate when we only asked for the email. Now I know what some of you might think. Well, we need more information. So where they're from, reverse engineering the IP, we can know by running a simple code. So we don't need to know where they're from. We don't need that field. What the company is, if we're talking about B2B, we don't need if we enforce the company email. The phone number is the only thing that's really kind of, there's a question mark about, but in many cases you'll actually find that calling them right away before hitting them up, the leads, will be problematic anyway. So I'll talk to you later about how to get the phone numbers for those emails and only get asking for one email. So the amount of information that you need, I suggest only go for email. A little preview about what's in the ebook, and a little bit of social proof. In this case, it's obviously a B2B. So instead of saying who downloaded it, we actually said which companies or which professionals from which companies download that ebook, which we saw had a positive effect on the conversion rate. And this is a footer that is on the whole website in case they want to learn more about Action product, so they want to go bottom of the funnel, they can convert right from the landing page. The second part, content promotion. So as I mentioned, this is the more important part. Everything is important, but this is something that can really rise and fall on execution. So the way we approach content promotion is asking a very simple question. Sounds simple, to execute is even harder. Where can we find those people, those target audiences, in our case the mobile product managers? Where would be the best place to find them online and to serve them those pieces of content that we just spent time creating? Very simple, but we have, let's call it a methodical approach to it. So what we start with is a keyword research from different angles. So basically, if we want to answer the question, where is our target audience hanging out online so we can deliver the content, we start with a keyword research. We ask, what are the high intent keywords? What are some searches that our target audience might be searching for online to find us? The second thing is low intent. What is our target audience searching that is not relevant for our product, but is relevant for them being them? Product manager for mobile apps might look for app store optimization. It doesn't revolve anything with Appsee or with the product that I'm marketing in this case, but by them actually searching for it, they automatically qualify themselves as people that I want to get in front of. So high intent and low intent. Then we got some semantically related keywords. In our case, it's app UX, app optimization, whatever it is that is the blurb of keywords around your product, around your industry. Google autocomplete is a really fun time to pass, a really good thing to pass the time. You start with your keywords, you let Google fill up the rest. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's depressing, but for sure, it will give you some more ideas on what people are searching, because the autocomplete, of course, is based on other people's searches. So we plug that in. We look at, as well as Google autocomplete, we look at competitors' keywords. What keywords are they using in their website, in their messaging? We look at profession-related things, so we're into product managers, so we're looking for things that are not about the product at all, but about them being product managers. For example, communities, blogs, they're searching for some professional materials regarding their profession. Wikipedia might give us more ideas for keywords, and crawlers, things like Google Alerts and TalkWalker, a couple of good tools to plug in some keywords and get results on where online these keywords actually appear. So when we finish this process, we have a list of at least 100 keywords that might be relevant for us. What do we do then with those keywords? We plug it back into Google, because no keyword in Google lives in a vacuum. We plug it back into Google and we see what results Google shoots out then. First page, the second page, the third page. What we actually come to is a very long list of domains that Google deemed relevant for some of those keywords. So what we basically find out, or have in our hands at this point, is the universe of domains and URLs that our target audience is hanging out in. Now, those results, those sometimes hundreds of websites you're going to come with after this exercise, are going to be categorized into quite a few different types of websites online. So some of them are going to be first-tier websites, meaning they're going to be let's say if we're in tech, they're going to be the Mashable, the TechCrunches of the world. Some of them are going to be second-tier publications, things that are very specific to the product managers in our example. The product manager's blog, or product management today, or whatever. The third thing we're going to find are some directories. Some websites are focused on being a directory for a certain industry or for a certain category of tools. Then we're going to find some Google organic results in there, which obviously hints on SEO, and I'm not going to go into today. Q&A. We're going to find, when we're actually going to do the research, we're going to plug in keywords, we're going to find some Quora questions that are relevant for our product, our industry, or our target audience, which means this is a good place for us to promote. I'll show you something about Quora soon. We're going to find some posts on social groups, on whatever social networks that we're in, or online communities, or forums. But basically, the list of websites can only be one of those 8, which means those are all domains where our target audience is hanging out, engaging, consuming content, or doing whatever. This is the list we want to get to. This is the list. These are the places online where we want to engage with our target audience. Nothing more. When we do go in to promote, we got the list of places we want to engage in, and we got the content that we just created. When we go in to promote that, one thing that we found that really, really helps is promoting it in bursts. Not doing it over time, but actually focusing it on a very tight few hours, or if not possible, a few days. The reason is very deeply psychologically rooted. Imagine you walk into a mall or a store or the duty free and you see a stand with a new product that you don't know, and there's a huge stand of that product with hundreds of boxes of that product. Instinctively, what do you think to yourself? This product must be hot, this product must be in very high demand, a lot of people must be buying it, otherwise they wouldn't have so many of it outside. Okay? We can't do it digitally. We can't put 500 copies of the same ebook, for example, on the same page and make people think, okay, so must be that everybody's downloading it. So we have to create some social credibility in a subtle way, in a different angle. So what we do is we push through all the channels at the same time. So if our target audience is a product manager, and they go online and they read their favorite newsletter, and they see an ad or they see a blurb about a new piece of content that we just put out, let's say 50-50 they download it, 50 they don't. Let's say they say, okay, maybe not today, but let's say they go to another forum now that they spend their time in and they see a post about that, and then let's say they go to a social group and they found that somebody posted about that as well. In the same day or in the same time span, they say to themselves, okay, so this is something I cannot afford to miss regarding the momentum or what's going on currently within my field. I have to have it. It's going to be a lot more powerful than if we posted or engage in those platforms throughout time, because people are not going to kind of remember it. So you want to have a punchy kind of approach to promoting that content. A couple of tricks or tactics that we use that really works is, as I mentioned, we don't create a lot of content in Appsee. So what we can do in order to create a lot of content from the few pieces of content that we do create is to break it down into chunks and use that as an acquisition machine. How do we do that? For example, a few months ago we put up the essential toolbox for the mobile product manager. Remember what we said about give them an offer they can't refuse? So the essential toolbox for mobile product manager. If I'm a mobile product manager, I might not agree with you, but I at least want to know what's essential. What do you think is essential, right? So we have this ebook, and it's basically a collection of listicles. The essential tools for mobile product managers, the essential conferences, the essential directories, the essential software, whatever it is. And we took each and every listicle within that ebook and we posted it as a piece of content because on its own it stands as a piece of content, as an article. And we posted it on Medium. It got picked up by Prototyper. By the way, another small Medium tip, don't have a Medium publication. Have your own Medium author and get picked up by Medium publication because it's much easier to do LOPA, leverage other people's audiences, rather than building your own. Okay? So we're having this piece, and in the end of each piece that was initially part of the ebook, we have a banner that shows, hey, you wanted more of these lists, go down and download the ebook. Another example on slicing content into chunks and promoting it as individual pieces is Quora. I said I'll get back to that. When we run a research of keywords on Quora, we get to a bunch of different questions, and we also get ideas for questions that we might want to ask. Okay? When we ask those questions or answer those questions, we provide true content, so it will get upvoted. A little bit of upvoting never hurts. And we put a couple of links to the pieces of content, which drives people in a discovery mode to the landing page of that piece of content to download it, feeling like they found it. Because if somebody came from Quora, they feel like they found you on their own. They don't feel like they've been marketed to, if you do it. Paid content, I get asked a lot. So the short answer is, if you can afford it. I really like GDN for similar audiences, the same for Facebook. If you can spend another $50 on Fiverr to create a video promo of your piece of content, that has been really successful in getting traffic, instead of just having banners, go to Fiverr, there's a bunch of templates, spend $50, you'll get somebody creating some sort of a 15-second overview for your ebook, and then you can run it as a video ad, which really works well. And buying some newsletters if you can find your target audience in big numbers in those newsletters. So LinkedIn ads, no thank you. I've done a bunch of campaigns on LinkedIn ads for different products. What I found is the ROI is never worth it for two main reasons. One, people are on LinkedIn on a defense, their guards are high. I've never met anyone that went on LinkedIn and wasn't either looking for a job or wanting to promote themselves. People know that they're going to be bombarded with marketing and sales materials, but by the time they actually click on an ad, the CPC is so high that the ROI is just not there. Just one man's opinion. But we do need to differentiate between two things in terms of content paid ads. First touch and second touch. First touch meaning, should we run campaigns to get people that never heard about us to download our content? That's the part that you should do only if you have an extra budget. But if not, I would suggest only going with retargeting. So the way we went with retargeting is people who downloaded the top of the funnel content, we put them in a certain list, and we started promoting as retargeting only the middle of the funnel content. So people that downloaded the product manager's salary survey, in our example, we started retargeting them with KPI ebook, the second. And people that downloaded this, we put them in a different list, and we push them towards the bottom of the funnel. And essentially what that created, which is the content funnel, in this particular example, is that you got on the right all the different sources of traffic from all the different types of websites that we got to. I hope you didn't lose me by this point. And all the different places where the traffic of our target audience comes from. They either download, because some people download this type of content or that type of content, so they either download the tofu, the mofu, or the bofu, and if they downloaded the tofu or the mofu, we retarget them until they engage with the bottom of the funnel content. And this is how we created the MQLs. So this is a machine you can start, literally what I did now is a recipe for how you can build for your own business. And then you create MQLs. Now I don't have a lot of time left, but it is very important to ask, what now? So we created MQLs, tens, hundreds, thousands, really depends on how much you need for your business. And what do we do with it? I'll tell you what we're not going to do with it. No marketing automation, please. I know I'll probably not be invited again to speak at a HubSpot conference, but I just want to remind us marketers that most of the content that convinced you that marketing automation is the silver bullet for anything marketing was created by HubSpot, by Marketo. They're doing an amazing job with their content blog, but also remember they're there to sell you their vision and their disciplines about how to use their products. So it might work for some, it might not work for you. Don't take it as a given. Marketing automation, especially when you're going for high-end clients in B2B and sometimes in B2C, it's worth spending the time to actually have somebody doing it, and in many cases it's going to be even less costly than having a license to those platforms. And the way we approach it is we have content sales development. You can call it SDRs, BDRs, business development representative. It's a person that works within the marketing team and is now actually all about leveraging those MQLs, those marketing qualified leads that we just created throughout this path that we described, in terms, with the goal of making them and turning them into customers. So they research each and every lead, go for the leads that are relevant for us. They personalize the reach out message, and in the end, they actually engage. If they have only email, they email. Then they research and they look at their LinkedIn, they add them on LinkedIn. They send them messages that are super specific and personalized and customized towards their product. And that has maybe 10 times more response rate than an email that is perceived as coming from an automatic. How does that look like? I just gave you one example of how we would pursue a good, let's call it A-grade potential client. This is what a BDR does for each and every grade A client. So on day one, they send an email. Immediately, they add them on LinkedIn. They actually send them a price request later that day. 2 days after, they send a second email. They call for the first time, and they send an email. On day 6, they wait a few days. They call them. They leave a voice message if they don't. They look them up on Twitter. They tweet at them. They send them a third email. They send them a calendar invite, a nice little trick that we kind of use. If nobody's answering your email and you send them a calendar invite, all of a sudden, it kind of stumps them, because we are used to getting calendar invites only from people that we know, so it's a bit weird. We get a bunch of responses, not all of them positive, but if you're trying to get a response, you get a response. And in the end, we send an email that is called a breakup email, which is basically, hey, I've tried to reach you. We are awesome. I'm not going to reach you again, so this is your last chance. And you will be surprised how well it works. Because people feel, oh, that guy's not going to bother me, but I've kind of gotten used to getting his emails every week. So we actually get responses from those breakup emails. So this is something to take into account. One example, yeah? You can build your own cadence or reach out strategy. I'll finish with this. After we build this funnel, we need to understand that companies do not make decisions like this. I've met too many CEOs and VP marketing that think, yeah, let's convince the C-level or the VP level, they'll buy the product, the decision maker, and then they'll do it. If you consider most C-level and VP levels for companies that are 100 people and over, they actually are not the ones using the tools. I can tell you something furthermore, as a C-level myself. Sometimes they don't know which tools most of the teams are using. And then if you convince them to do something like this and introduce a new tool into the platform, imagine for a C-level to take that risk, because they might risk introducing a tool that maybe one of the teams is already using, and they will look like they're disconnected. It's something that I actually hear a lot. What the real decision process looks like is this. There's a bunch of different people who are decision makers within the organization, and you need to target them separately. How do you do it? By creating a different funnel for each and every persona. Sounds like a lot of work? Yeah, what can we do? But it's worth it. Before I leave, really quick, how much is this worth? A lot, right? Anybody recognize what this is? Right, so it's worth more than its weight in gold, right? It's important to remember that the whole story of Aladdin is a marketing strategy and narrative told to you in the first 2 minutes of the Aladdin movie in order to give value to that lamp, in order for you to want it, covet it, consume it, and buy it, right? So you create the narrative, build that funnel, and get people to engage with you in a clever way. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email me, LinkedIn me. Thank you very much.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So I wanted to, great, thank you, really learned a lot. All right, so my takeaway from that was LOPA. Anybody else learn LOPA for the first time? That was for me. Leverage other people's audiences. As a public relations guy, I've been doing it for 20 years, trying to get my stories in other people's audiences, right? So think about all the different ways that you can leverage other people's audiences, not to mention tofu, mofu, and bofu. That was new to me. Who else has a takeaway that they picked out of that? Who else has a takeaway? Raise your hand. Don't be shy. We're all learning from each other today. This is one big content support group. Yes, in the back. Specific content for each funnels, right? All right. Exactly. So how would you talk to a CEO differently than you would talk to a product manager? I thought that was great. Who else has a takeaway? Yes, the black.
So retargeting with LinkedIn.
Retargeting with LinkedIn.
Somebody you already have their company.
Somebody where you already have them, but you're going to go back around and retarget them. Excellent. Excellent. Who else has a takeaway? Yes, in the back, white shirt.
The idea of promoting in bursts to create a sense of momentum.
That was awesome, right? Promote in bursts to create a sense of urgency, right? You want to surround that potential customer so that she or he, everywhere they go, sees you and they're like, what's going on? Awesome. One more? In the back, yeah.